Woody Wommack with Adam Gorney. Adam, a new weekly show we're doing called Tuesdays with Gorney. I don't know how I got left out of the title.
I wonder how.
Anyway, I'll be on here sometimes with Gorney. He will have interviews as well. He has one coming up later in the show with JT Daniels' father. Perfect timing considering Georgia and Clemson play this weekend. But before we get to that, Gorn Dog, we got to talk about the topic of the week, Nebraska. What a disaster.
Yeah. And here's the problem. Scott Frost came out and said it was his best team yet, and he's talking it up, and he's on game day and saying the guys believe and all this kind of stuff. And Illinois is not exactly a very good football team. I mean, they don't have a lot of skill, but they came out and played hard. I don't think Nebraska did a whole lot of that. Adrian Martinez. And we go down the storylines that we've done for years. Adrian Martinez looks great for a play or a series, and then he fumbles the ball and kicks it away, and the guy picks it up and runs it back for a touchdown. The offensive line, they were talking about weights, plates, not weights, and on how they lift at Nebraska. And then they got pushed around. They hardly ran the ball. Adrian Martinez, again, is the leading rusher. They don't give the ball to Gabe Ervin. They talk about all these receivers that they have. Omar Manning comes in. We know he's good. Xavier Betts is there. Didn't play, it doesn't seem like. So, is Scott Frost really in trouble now? I don't know. I mean, Trev Alberts is in a very difficult situation because, message boards are not exactly a clear way of the entire fan base thinking, but they are almost to the point where they've just had enough. And it's almost like gallows humor over there about just how bad this team is right now. They should have gone into Illinois and won 41-17, made a statement and walked out of there. Who knows what the rest of the season would look like? I mean, they have Oklahoma in a couple of weeks. That's going to be scary. They finish with Iowa, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. That's going to be bad. I just don't see how this team starts really kind of kicking it into high gear after a loss to Illinois.
Yeah, plates, not weights. That's what happens over here at my house.
Plates, then weights.
Right, exactly. From a recruiting perspective, you mentioned, okay, so when we look at Nebraska and we look at the offensive line, they do have a pair of tackles that were ranked highly by us. They're huge guys, but once again, they're like freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores, depending how we're categorizing the COVID year. They got Gabe Ervin, who you mentioned, who probably has a lot of talent and can be really good for them, but he's a true freshman, the first one to play ever. And then you have Martinez, who's been, I tweeted it, in the transfer portal era, with 4 years of seeing him in practice, how can that be the guy that you roll out there? I mean, Mackenzie Milton was available. Now, we don't know if he's healthy. We don't know what's going on. And he's listed as a co-starter at Florida State. How could Frost not go and get him and at least bring him in and say, hey, look, I'm going to give you a chance to compete for the job. If not, we're getting a jump start on your coaching career, given his injury history. I just think from a recruiting perspective, they're essentially dead in the water right now. I mean, the worst place you want to be is in this lame duck situation. And he may not get fired, like you said, but how do you build a recruiting class or finish strongly when you have no momentum on campus?
And that's the tough thing. I mean, Adrian Martinez goes in there as probably a little overrated, top 100 kid, showed flashes in high school. He was very good during Under Armour week. I think that's why we moved him up so much. People seem to love him down there, and he has just really declined after his freshman year. How has he gotten any better? How has that offense gotten any better? Scott Frost coming out and saying, oh, the way Illinois lined up, half of our playbook just went out the window. Now, I just don't know. And so I don't know if this is like a coach who just lost his mojo and just doesn't know what to do. I think today they talked about not having music at practice and that the players had to bring their own energy. And if that's the strategy for how to improve this team, I just don't know. Illinois came out with, hardly, every question in the book at receiver. Nebraska's defense was supposed to be great. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't score. They couldn't do anything. It's just really bad. I just don't know what to say. What position on the team is getting better there? And when you look at recruiting, and this is kind of an ongoing discussion about teams, that had once been very, very popular to go to. I don't talk to a ton of guys that are like, I can't wait to go play at Nebraska. Even guys in the area. Iowa's battling for guys. Ohio State can go in and get guys in that area of the Midwest. Everybody just goes in there and gets the top guys. The top guys in Iowa now, Caden Proctor and Xavier Wonkpa, aren't even discussing it. Fedoni was a huge one, but that's one of a million. So I think that there are programs that want to be back to what they were in the 1980s. And before. The entire college football landscape has changed for numerous reasons that we could have an entirely different video about. But this is going to be tough. I don't talk to a lot of premier elite football players that want to go play at Nebraska, and that's what they need. Not to just beat Illinois, but to just be competitive in the Big Ten. We're talking about before the game, is this the year Nebraska turns around? When can they become a Big Ten contender again? And they just lost to Illinois. I mean, and it was really not even in the question. So, across the board, there are definitely questions about what's going on and where Scott Frost goes from here, because he was talking this team up like they were the best, and he finally figured it out, and he even said he had his guys in there now. And so those were his guys. And it sounds like a lot of coach speak and a lot of nothing on the field.
Well, where is the offense that, Scott Frost was supposed to have come from? They ran I know, okay, it changed a little bit from Oregon to UCF. Where is like the relentless, fast, no huddle run? Like, where are the jet sweeps? Where, you know what I mean? Where's like someone like Adrian Killens, who was a 5.5 3-star that they took at UCF because he was too small and nobody would take him. And now he's been bouncing around like, fringe NFL player. But I mean, against Michigan as a true freshman, he had like an 80-yard touchdown. Like, where's the DeAnthony Thomas type player? And I'm not saying a 5-star, but him and Killens played the same type of role. They got Wan'Dale Robinson. They bring him in. He leaves because he can't even get the ball. I mean,
can't get the ball. Yeah.
I was watching Martinez, and I'm not a notorious like Martinez hater over the years. I couldn't believe how bad some of the passes were. I mean, it was just like, how do you not have a quarterback? I just don't get and I remember talking about this when he was hired, and there was a lot of talk about, if you look at his record, you look at his track record with quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota, Justin Herbert. And I'm like, well, okay, we're giving him credit for Herbert. I guess that's loose. Okay. Number two, he didn't recruit Mariota, you know what I mean? Like, we know Chip Kelly put the quarterbacks there, and how many misses did he have when he was the OC at Oregon? After that they didn't have a replacement for Mariota, and that's what helped Helfrich get fired. Then he has Milton at UCF, which was great, but they were together for like 1 year, or two seasons, and he kind of, personally, I feel like, given his year 4 at Nebraska, if we look back over the last decade, he's had more misses than hits to me personally.
Well, it's just, and I hate this word when people use identity. What is your team identity and stuff? But when you watch that offense, what are they? Sometimes they try to go fast, but it doesn't really work. They're not line them up and pound them. They're not get your big Nebraska offensive line and pound you and just take you over like Iowa likes to do. They're not that. Martinez runs around a little bit, and he has wide open guys that he overthrows. He threw a ball out of the end zone. He threw a ball off the sideline. And the play before halftime was exactly everything. So I just don't know. And when you talk about recruiting too, I think they're 65th in the country right now. 9 commits. They're sandwiched in there between Coastal Carolina and Wake Forest. This isn't a team, and we talk about them because Scott Frost is popular and Nebraska is popular, and college football is better when Nebraska is good and competing against Wisconsin and Iowa and those teams in the Big Ten West. It gets more exciting, but this team doesn't have any momentum going for it in recruiting on the field. If they walked out of there with a big convincing win over Illinois, which has a new coach, new players all over the place, no receivers, Bielema is trying to figure everything out on the run, and they go in and they beat Nebraska, who Scott Frost came in and said this is his best team yet, and he finally has his guys. I mean, that's problematic from here. The good news is for the next few weeks, the schedule is really, really easy. I mean, if they're going to beat Fordham, right? I would hope Fordham, Buffalo.
Buffalo, maybe. Give me the points with the
Buffalo. Give me the points. And then things get really fishy. Like they're at Oklahoma September 18th. Would I be shocked if that line was 4 touchdowns? I wouldn't be at all. I wouldn't be at all. Michigan State. Okay, maybe, they're a pretty bad football team this year. Northwestern, Michigan.
Let me tell you something. That's a push to me. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe I'm overreacting, but yeah, that's a push. We're doing the Mike and the Mad Dog thing. Okay. So.
Yeah. Am I Mike or the Mad Dog? Because
you're Mike. I'll be Dog for sure.
Okay. Then October starts. Northwestern, Michigan, Minnesota, Purdue, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Iowa. Is that the death knell? Is that where it just goes off the rails and Trev Alberts is forced to do it? And they were talking about this after the game, I think, and someone said on ESPN that Scott Frost is to Nebraska what Tim Tebow is to Florida. Well, no one's giving Tim Tebow the job at Florida. It's just not because he's a good football player there. Does he have to be the coach? I mean, Scott Frost was a very good coach at UCF. He was a good coordinator at Oregon. Okay, it's not working out at Nebraska. I don't know if it can work out. I don't know if if you can bring in a Frank Solich type, and that's good enough. Bo Pelini had great record there. Obviously, he wasn't a culture fit, and he was just an awful human being. But you bring in Scott Frost, and it has not worked out. It hasn't worked out for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Scott Frost can go and change all the coordinators and position coaches he wants. If he doesn't have the players and those players, and I don't know, and I've seen both ways, both opinions here. I don't know if it's the players aren't buying into the system and not giving 100% effort. I don't know if he's kind of holding back his players from who they are and letting them play. Betts, I don't know the story there. I don't know why Manning didn't get the ball. I think the Buffalo transfer had 3 catches. I just don't know what's going on there. I don't know what the vision is to go into Illinois and not just blow them off the field if you think this is the best team you've ever had.
So real quick before we wrap this up, this was a tweet from Zach Shaw. He said Scott Frost would need to go 37-1 over his next 38 games to match Jim Harbaugh's current record at Michigan. So, I mean, if you want to compare those two, that's pretty bad. So,
after Fordham, it'll be 36-1. So that's
right. After Fordham and maybe Buffalo, half of Buffalo's team transferred to Kansas, so they're going to be up against it. All right, real quick, some recruiting news that happened on Monday. Georgia lands 4-star offensive lineman Jacob Hood, a guy that really we're out on a limb on, Gorney, but I led the charge on him even before we had a chance to see him. We've had him as a 4-star. We're the only service with him as a 4-star, and we have him in the Rivals 250. You saw him. This dude is the size of a house. I mean, he's a former basketball player. He's 6'8". He's 350 pounds, however much you want to say. He's agile at that size too because of his basketball background. You think people are kind of sleeping on him as a prospect?
I do. Is he a finished product? Absolutely not. But Zach Banner and he are about the same size, and Zach Banner has been a multi-year starter in the NFL. What I like about Hood is that he is that size. I mean, he's not like a condo. He's like a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house. I mean, that kid is massive, massive. And he moves well. He's like light on his feet. He can, I've seen him in person. Very good. He's not insanely physical, but he'll get there. They'll coach that up into him at Georgia. I don't think Georgia was like going after this kid crazy early on, but once they went after him, and he told me, I just talked to him the other day, and he said, when I walked in at Georgia, they were like, we have to have you. I mean, he's just a kid that when he goes to at Georgia, when he plays on the offensive line there and does half decently, if he goes to the NFL Combine, NFL teams are just going to fall in love with the kid. He doesn't have any, a little bad weight. Okay, who doesn't in the summer? I know you do, not me. But he is 6'8", good weight, moves well, is going to the SEC, picked Georgia over Auburn and Miami that both definitely wanted him. I think this is definitely a 4-star. I'm not even going to say project, because I think he could be a really, really talented football player. Yeah,
and like I said, I saw him probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, when he was just starting to play football. And I just, you can't, if a guy is that big and can move, he essentially has to be a 4-star. And you could say, oh, you're ranking on skill or size. Well, guess what? I mean, you look at another guy from Nashville, our boy Obina Ize, who could have probably been drafted. He's going to start at left tackle for TCU. He had never even played football before he came here, right. And now he's going to be at least a top 3-round draft pick. So you just can't coach. 6'8" is, I mean, that's the size of LeBron James.
But at 335, yeah.
Right, exactly. So anyway, that's a big one for them. Texas also landed a commit today from, what's his first name?
Jare
Bledsoe. This is a guy who's not playing this season, the classic high school red shirt. He's supposed to enroll early at Texas. This is going to be tough for us as we continue to go. How do we handle these guys who are not playing their senior years and kind of going straight to school?
Yeah, that is going to be something that we have to discuss as a company, of how we want to do it. Is this something that we are ranking, and as we've said, we rank off college projection and NFL draft status. So how we think you're going to play in college and where you're going to get drafted in the NFL. That's why defensive ends are more valuable in the rankings process than, let's say, fullbacks or safeties or whatever else. So, Bledsoe is not going to play his senior year. I don't believe. So does that affect him at all when he goes to college? Some would argue yes, some would argue no. In the case of Jaden Blue, the running back that we sort of dropped because of the same situation, he's chosen to just sit out the year. And honestly, that is a little worrisome. Saving your body is one thing. Not playing your senior year of high school, one, I think, is he's missing a lot of just fun opportunities with his teammates. But two, what does that say when he feels the same way that he's going to get to the NFL? Is he only going to play 2 years at Texas? Is he going to redshirt play one and then sit out and go? I mean, all those kind of questions kind of come into a factor. We obviously, part of our ranking is how we see players playing in high school and who's good and who's not, who's better than this guy, who's better than that guy. That's part of the projection. So I don't think this guy will plummet out of the rankings. I don't think he should fall all that much, because his junior film, you could argue he's actually a little underrated in terms of his production on the field. But it is something, it's a weird, quirky thing that's going on where we're getting to see maybe guys, Clowney sort of did it a little bit, in high school, and especially at South Carolina, where he just kind of mailed it in his last year. Steve Spurrier is too much of a gentleman to say it publicly, but it is a little bit of an interesting thing where these guys start so early, they get recruited so early, they're now committing in their sophomore and junior years. It's almost like by the time they're seniors in high school, they're kind of over it. They don't even really want to do it all that much, and they just want to get to college. That's why so many enroll early. That's why it's just, you see like their best film their junior years. But we'll see. I mean, I think Texas is getting a very, very talented player, and so I think we should rank him off of that.
All right. So real quick, before we wrap up on our topics and you talk to Steve Daniels, JT Daniels' father, about the game this weekend, we had a really crazy story with IMG Academy game against Bishop Sycamore, a online school from Ohio. Everyone's talking about it. It's hard because we had a player on the Bishop Sycamore roster that was alerted to us as like a catfish, who was using someone else's huddle. He was claiming offers that he didn't have. It appears that some schools then fell for it and maybe actually offered him based on some custom edits he's had made for him. But he's a player that had graduated in 2020. Now he's essentially 20 years old playing against high schoolers, even though it didn't look like it yesterday. This is just like, this is the era we're in. Whether, we had our own issue, of course, with someone using fake film and stuff. Then you had the college admission scandal where these rich parents were pretending their kids were athletes when they weren't, to trick schools and to get in. And now we have this. I mean, how tough is it for you, being, the national recruiting director, trying to deal with this? And what does this situation say about how hard it is in the digital era to figure all this out?
Yeah, it is definitely a weird sort of part of the job that unfortunately consumes too much time. But I will say this, I actually credit the ESPN commentators for how they handled it yesterday. They knew what was going on was complete BS. They knew, well, this Bishop Sycamore team played Friday night against a team from Pittsburgh, Stowe Rocks, then went and traveled to play on Sunday, which is a complete player safety issue. This isn't just like bringing in players from all over the country that might have some suspicious pasts and shady situations and an online school. I don't even know what that entirely means, but and it's like, they just show up at the field. And the game was played in the sense that, like, if IMG really wanted to make a statement, like, because IMG in a way, is seen by public schools or a lot of private schools around the country as bogus. It's like, a feeder program to colleges and whatever else you want to say critical of IMG. But at least it's a legit institution with legit coaches. Pepper Johnson is their coach. They've put players to every school. It's an actual place. What Tom Luganbill and those guys at ESPN were saying the other day was they said things like, this Bishop Sycamore team is not a representation of Ohio football. They're not competitive. The player safety is an issue. They're saying they have these offers, but no recruiting service can verify it. And that's just borderline ridiculous. So if I was IMG, I wish they weren't such gentlemen. I wish they ran it up 200-0 because they really could have. I mean, it was 58-0 and it looked like no one even gave an effort. So it was really just sad and pitiful to see. It was sad. I'm not blaming ESPN for putting them on TV. I think Bishop Sycamore deserves all the blame here. They're putting their players at tremendous risk for injury. They have absolutely no business to be on national television. And I feel, it's my personal opinion, that they did this so they could get exposure on national television. They didn't care if they would lose 58-0. They were playing IMG, and they'll be able to sell the one pass play that they caught and sell that to kids to come to their online school, wherever that may be.
So Bishop Sycamore still has a bunch more games against, Duncanville and other teams. I mean, do you think those teams should play those games? I personally think they shouldn't. But it's tough to replace a game on the schedule. So what would you do if you were those other schools?
Yeah, it's very difficult to at this point to find games. But I don't really want to penalize the kids that kind of got, I don't want to say duped, but went to that school in this situation. But I just don't know how you can play this team. I don't even know, like, you can't. I mean, it's a no-win situation. You beat them 70-0, fine. Should you have even played them? I just don't. I just want high school football to be rid of things like this. During the 7-on-7 season, you see enough strange stuff going on. When you're taking that into the actual season and on national television, and you're going to have Duncanville guys going and playing these guys and them traveling all over the country, I just hope that it just fades away, but it probably won't.
Yeah, we'll be following along to see and trying to stay ahead of the next catfish organization, which it's happening in basketball too. It's happening all across. So Anyway, all right, Gorn Dog, we will have you take it over, talk to Steve Daniels, and be sure to subscribe to the show on the Godfather and Gorney feed. That's where you can find it every Tuesday. It'll be Adam with a guest, or maybe it'll be me on here running my mouth as well. So be sure to lock in, subscribe, like, rate, review as we try to get the show going for the season. All right, thanks, Adam.
See ya. This is Adam Gorney, the National Recruiting Director at Rivals.com, here with a special guest. It took a while to get him out of brunch, but we are here with Steve Daniels, who is JT Daniels' father, the Georgia starting quarterback, heading into this weekend's big game against Clemson. Steve, let's first talk about his high school days at Mater Dei. The great memories there.
Sure.
I mean, really almost like a college program. What was it like sitting in those stands and watching Bruce Rowlandson coach and JT throwing the ball all over the place?
Yeah, it was an absolute blast, Adam. In fact, we're alumni now to Mater Dei, of course, and Mater Dei was in town playing Duncanville, as I live in Southlake, Texas these days. And Mater Dei just keeps on rolling. Two really good teams, but Coach Rollo had those guys ready to go. I'll tell you, Mater Dei, it's such a great bloodline or tradition from there. And if you really think about it, Adam, from 99 to 2017, there wasn't a league win, a league title, I should say, or even a CIF. So we were fortunate to be part of that group, JT and his buds that came in, started things going, and now I think it's 3 or 4, championships in a row at the national level, competing with Bosco and stuff. So 2 great programs, but Mater Dei is the Camelot of high school football. I would tell you that with Coach Rollins.
We had our Texas writer there. I said, the big red machine is coming into town. Duncanville's going to get hurt. And what do you see as the difference? And like you said, just before we started here, Duncanville has guys. I mean, Amari Abor is a guy and Jordan Crook is a guy, and they have guys all over the place. But it just seems like when Mater Dei gets really rolling, every position, not only Division I players, but incredibly well coached. Did you kind of see that as JT was getting through that system?
Oh, absolutely. And that was, it's something about Mater Dei that really stands out all the time. We're not necessarily the biggest team, certainly plenty of talent, but you guys just get off the ball. They get the right fits. They're using the right techniques. Everyone's on the same page, and they rinse and repeat. It's a very disciplined, very talented at a coaching level, incredible coaches throughout there as well. And it's like you said, it's really tough. Once, if you think, Bosco had beaten Mater Dei 5 or 6 times in a row, and then once all of a sudden Mater Dei started getting, the same kind of players that Bosco was getting, and now you've got, 2 teams that beat everyone. Who's beaten either one of those teams except for each other in the last several years?
Let's talk about this weekend. Obviously, a huge game to start the season. It can't really get much better. Georgia, Clemson. JT running that offense, how comfortable is he running it? It obviously looks like it's working out well, and now into year 2, probably going to be even better. How excited are you to see what this offense is going to look like under him?
Super excited. I think the whole community is the Bulldog community is its second year in Coach Monken's offense. And, one last thing about Mater Dei, Rawlinson was really instrumental in helping us choose to go to Georgia for JT. He said, Steve, don't think about the depth chart. Think about where you're going to go, where JT can do what he does best. And this offense with Coach Monken allows that, right? Coach Monken puts the game plan together in the film room, and then he, in many ways, lets JT guide it from the line of scrimmage, who's got the best view for it. So you put great players around a kid that's going to be ready with the film work, and a lot of good things can happen.
That is something that was super rare about JT, and some others have done it in years past, but he would get up to the line. He would essentially call his own play. He would have complete control of the offense, and at Mater Dei, put him in the end zone almost every single time down the field. How important was that when you were talking to schools? Obviously, there were going to be a lot of options for JT to go to. That freedom, that flexibility at the line was going to be kind of an important thing for him.
Yeah, I think, this last time through, it was about where can you play to compete for a national championship, and with an offense that allows JT to accentuate his strengths, right? And that's really, being on time, on target, but most importantly, being the guy that whole team knows is going to make sure they're in the right blocking scheme if it needs to be adjusted, or the right route concepts. And I think there's a lot of confidence that builds from that when everyone realizes, hey, we just have to do our job. No one has to be Superman out here. Just line up, execute, rinse and repeat, and see where it ends up. Got a chance to be special.
More than anything, I've always kind of taken from him that he's a winner. He wants to win first. I remember at Modern Day, he would take hits, and he didn't look like a kid that could really take those hits, but he took them on, got back up, and went after it again. What do you think it would mean for him, not only to win an SEC or even to just get to the playoff, but to win a national title, one of the first ones in many decades at Georgia? Yeah,
it would be, it's the goal for the whole team. It's right there in front of them. I think, frankly, that's, just get up every day, do what you're supposed to do, and go attack that goal. And a lot to look forward to for the Bulldogs.
I was watching something the other day. It had Heisman favorites, and he's obviously one of them. Everyone was a West Coast quarterback. Spencer Rattler is from Arizona, right. And then JT, Bryce Young, another modern day quarterback. CJ Stroud was on the list at Ohio State, even though he hasn't started a game yet. And DJ, who he's going to be playing against this weekend. Obviously, you want Georgia to win. There's no doubt about that. But how fun is it going to be for you to kind of see, a Bosco versus modern day quarterback battle again, one we've dealt with for years on the high school level, where parking was $5. Now it's going to be about $50. But just to see those guys go at it, what is that going to be like to feel like for you and even for JT,
Yeah, I think it was a special couple years of quarterback classes out in Southern California, that's for sure. And watching these guys from, Bryce and DJ, these guys were 11, 12, 13 years old, and some 7-on-7 tournaments we'd run into them at, and to watch them grow and thrive. Number one, it's not surprising, all really good kids and incredibly hard workers. So that's fun to see for sure, to see the California boys do their thing everywhere.
Steve, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Adam. You have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Go Dogs.
This is Steve Daniels, JT Daniels' father, here with Adam Gorney for Rivals.com. This is Adam Gorney, the National Recruiting Director at Rivals, here with Big Dave Uiagalelei, DJ Uiagalelei's dad. Hey, Dave, great to see you again. Obviously, we see each other a whole lot out on the circuit with Matayo now coming through. But today we're talking about DJ a little bit. And let's start with his recruitment. What do you remember about it? What was so special for you as a dad going through it, really the first time for you?
Well, it started at a young age. I understood the power of social media. You're looking at a father that didn't do it like a normal, let's say DJ was a 4th, 5th grader. DJ wasn't doing normal 4th and 5th grader things. I understood about building his brand. I understood the part where I just started posting, content, what I mean? Getting stuff out to people like coaches or recruiters, I didn't send, the one thing I didn't do, I didn't send videos to recruiters or anyone else. I knew from the get-go, all you had, what I had in my hand was special. So what I did was just post a lot of his stuff. And eventually around 6th, 7th grade, some of those videos got out to a lot of recruiters and coaches, and the things that I was posting back then were kind of amazing, and that's basically how it all started for DJ. It wasn't like we waited to high school to do this. We started at a very young age,
When you're going through the recruiting process as a family, when did you guys know Clemson was the right fit? Was it the first visit he took there? I think I remember he came back and kind of wanted to commit, wanted his, you guys to go out there and sign off on it. Kind of walk me through that process of when you guys knew Clemson was going to be the right fit for him.
Well, me and the mom, we wanted to leave it to DJ, on where he wanted to go. And there was a lot of schools, DJ was getting recruited by a lot of schools. But for Clemson, it was the first day he got there. He called his mom and told his mom that this is the true, he's talked about this story, at Clemson in front of the press. But he basically said the first time he was there, Dabo Swinney talked about his faith. And that was the key component that locked DJ in. He said he felt the Holy Spirit and said that was the place for him to go, to be at. So it was basically the first time he went to Clemson. He knew in his heart that he wanted to go there, but he didn't want to commit right then and there because he wanted to give the respect to me and his mom to come and visit first before he go public with his commitment.
Everybody wants to know this, and it's a fun part of recruiting, but if it wasn't Clemson, which schools do you think he really liked? Which schools did you really like in his recruitment?
It was only 2 schools. And it was because he's more of a relationship-based type of guy. He built a relationship with Clemson and the coaches, and he built the relationship with the coaches at Oregon. Mm-hmm. Coach Arroyo, who was at the time was the OC, was really close to DJ. DJ he thought highly of Coach Arroyo and the recruitment and just the knowledge that Arroyo brought to the table, coming from the NFL aspect of it, that stood out to DJ. And it would have been Oregon if he didn't choose Clemson.
Your experiences there, we've all followed them on social media. You do such a great job of following along as you go on the weekends there. What's a weekend like there for you? It seems like you have so much fun when you get out there.
It's me, I'm the most lovable guy. I love, as they love me, I give it right back to them. I'm one of the fathers that is just so appreciative of what's going on with my kids, especially DJ. All I know is it's fun. You go there, you get love from everyone. It's funny because so many people ask me for pictures. You're talking a guy who was a bodyguard, and I'm working with clients celebrities that always are asked to have pictures. And it's so quick for me to, we're on a move. So I'm like, excuse me, so I can stop everyone from getting pictures. But here now they're asking me, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say, but of course I'm going to say yes. Number one is this, I'm always showing love to everyone, and I think that's what, why America last year fell in love with me on TV. I never asked the camera to come. At the 2 games DJ played, I guess I was on the camera a lot too. They were talking about me on there, and for me, that's just, I'm grateful for it, and I think the love that I have for my kids, was shown on there. I got so many messages, emails, from fathers and from sons. Yeah. And it blew me away, just how it touched so many people, the relationship between the father and the son, and just the father loving on their kids. The one thing it's just one of the funnest things to go out there on a weekend, you know what I mean? Eating all the great food out there in Clemson, you know what I'm saying? Seeing all the wonderful people, sharing stories, man, there's just nothing like it. I'm just enjoying the process as a father and just understanding that this is all, it's all a blessing. The goal, number one goal was just to get one scholarship. That's it. DJ and Matayo understood the goal was just to get a free education. I didn't care if it was to Laverne University or a D2, D3. It doesn't matter. But all of this is just a blessing, icing on the cake, I guess.
Take me back to that night at Notre Dame when Trevor's out, he's in. Obviously, a massive setting, huge game. He delivers in a big way. What was that like for you, just to kind of see that and experience that?
Oh man, It's crazy to, I couldn't believe I was at that stadium. What a prestigious place to play in, legendary. You watch the movies, you see it on TV, and you're there. I had to stop and just take it in, and understand what's going on. Is that my son is about to play in the stadium, And then as we went through the game, it was awesome. It was gratifying. It was all worth it. All the hard work going through the process, of training every day, DJ, going through the process of meeting coaches, the recruiting, talking to you, talking to all, everyone that was part of it. It was all worth it to see my son out there. And then the way he played that game, though we lost, to me, win or lose, I'm gonna always be proud of my son.
Yeah.
He did amazing. To know that he went out there and thrown the most yardage versus Notre Dame history. He threw for 439 yards. And even though we lost, everyone who watched that game saw the greatness in DJ, just not being afraid. I mean, for your first time on the road with a top 5 school like that, just went in there and played with moxie, with confidence, with not being afraid of the moment. The one thing I love about DJ is how he goes about, how he doesn't allow things outside to distract him from what he has to face. To me, what keeps him, what helps him to focus is just how he's the simplicity. That's DJ to the T. DJ won't worry about what everybody else's expectation is on him. He only worries about what he needs to know, the part of him playing QB. That's it. Being the best player for the team, and that's it. I think that's where, to me, where he finds a lot of success in what he does. So yeah, that game was amazing.
There was a story that came out just yesterday that DJ was in watching film at 7 a.m. and the coaches came in actually after him. Are you surprised to hear that? Or how proud are you to know that, he really has, the eye of the tiger here,
My son, he's been like that from the jump. A lot of people tell me, man, is that something that you guys taught him? To me, I'll be honest. The kid was born with it. Yes, we're parents that taught him, all the things that you want to be the first person there, the last person to leave. You want to, go in and learn your position or do your due diligence and to be the best player you can be. We give them all of that. But at the end of the day, the player has to go and activate it and do it. You know what I mean? And that was him. He's always been a guy that understood in order for him to be the best he can be is he has to cross all his T's and dot all his I's. Listen to these great people that's giving him. See, I say this all the time. It wasn't just me and his mom. It took a village, So him being there, that's pretty crazy. Being there 2 hours before practice, being before your coach, it's not an act. I can tell you that right now. It's not an act. It's something that DJ has been. He wants to be great. Yeah. He wants to be great. Like one of his biggest idols is Kobe.
Yeah.
He watches a lot of his videos. So if you watch Kobe and know who Kobe is, he's about simplicity too. He doesn't want to. He's the task in hand. That's all that matters. And that's how DJ is.
Last thing, Dave. This weekend, DJ, JT Daniels, 2 California quarterbacks. Obviously, you're going to want Clemson to win the game, but how cool is it going to be to see both those kids, modern day Bosco again, all that stuff together now on the national college football stage?
For me, I'm just telling you, I'm a Trinity fan first and foremost, So in that game, to me, we won.
Yeah.
Right across the country, listen, the Trinity has won first. The fact that you got 2 kids in the same league that probably grew up 26 miles from each other, the biggest game in college football this weekend, that's a win for the Trinity League, for Southern California QBs. You know, of course, I want my son to win, of course, you know, but I'm proud of JT too, because I know his father, Steve, and, you know, it was a pretty rough road for him at USC, but, you know, things happen for a reason. I was so happy when I heard that he was going to Georgia, because Georgia got an O-line, you know, not to say USC doesn't. I'm just saying that's what they do out there in the SEC and the ACE. They got O-lines out there. And I knew once my guy JT had a line, I knew he was going to do what he did in high school. You know, I'm really proud of JT and what he's done at Georgia and how he represents, you know, the Southern California QBs. There's a lot of them out there. I tweeted it out, you know what I mean? 3 of the quarterbacks, three or 4 of them, man, from Southern California are in the top 5 Heisman chase. You know, how crazy is that? Yeah. You know, but I am excited for this game. I know my son is ready. I know JT's ready. Respect to both of them, you know, and Steve. But yeah, you know, I'm happy. I'm excited.
Awesome. Big Dave, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it. And I'm sure I will see you at Matayo's game in a couple weeks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks again. This is Adam Gorney for Rivals.com.